Hello, my name is Allison Carmen. Welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. Today, I want to talk to you about this in-between place that many of us find ourselves in. It feels like we're in between a pandemic and a normal life. I live in New York City, and a lot of things seem to have gotten back to normal with there are more people in town and more people in restaurants. So you sometimes forget. You think, oh, look, life is back to normal. And then you remember the virus, and you remember social distancing, and you remember masks. And the economy is not quite what it was, and people seem a little more impatient. And we're kind of left in this in-between place. But the thing I'm most surprised about is I thought after we experienced the pandemic, we would all be kinder and more considerate and more thoughtful. But it kind of feels like we're in the same place that we've always been. That it's our choice every day to remember to be grateful, to remember what's meaningful, and to remember to choose thoughts that are more positive, that are more uplifting. So the last couple of weeks, I've decided to really dig into this, to not let my mind go astray, not let the news get to me too much, not let COVID-19 bring me down, and not start overreacting to things that I didn't let bother me last year when we were all in this really worried, scared state about COVID. And I remember really slowing down how I thought about my problems at work and the sacredness of every moment. So I've just decided to go back to that. And I thought to myself, if the world is speeding up again, how do I stay at a pace for myself that I'm calmer and I'm more peaceful and I'm not stressed or worried? So like I've talked about many times in the morning, when I wake up, I make a list of all the things that I'm grateful for. But the last couple of weeks, I also make a list of the things that I'm committed to. Presence, kindness, love. But I don't stop there. Then I write about things that make me feel that way. Both my daughters are now at school, so sometimes I'll go into one of their rooms and I'll open up a drawer and I'll see something that my older daughter has saved, an old paper or a picture. And there's something about that that warms my heart. Her curiosity for learning, her excitement about life. And it just pops my heart open a bit. And I'll write that down. I'll write down how I feel when someone acts kind to me, and how I feel when I act kind to someone else. I'll actually write specific things down to make me remember. And I ask myself questions. Are you overreacting to something? Have you left maybe? Are you believing the situation in the moment can't work out? Do you know for sure? I just write enough questions down that when something comes up, I'm going to remember to pause. And what I've decided to do is now I take my gratitude list and I take the aspects of myself that I'm committed to, like love and kindness and presence, and the stories that make me feel that way or remind me of those things, that remind me of what's meaningful, remind me to stay in that space that I'm committed to. And I leave it by my desk while I'm working. And what's so interesting about having these reminders around me is that when I start to get tense during the day, I could read something in the news. Something could happen at work, something I don't like. One of my children could call me with a problem. You could actually feel yourself tense up a little bit if you really become aware of it. And when I have that feeling, I look at all these lists around me, and it's an opportunity to remember. And that's all that's really happening every day, is that we're getting pulled in every direction out of the moment, out of our presence, out of our peace. And this in-between place between the pandemic and normal life seems to have a big pull. Because your clear things are not what they used to be. And we're left with this feeling of, how do I live my life now? How do I find opportunities? How do I stay positive? How do I stay open? How do I live my best life in this new environment? And I find, for me, the only time I go wrong is when I let those aggravations or those fears or those worries just pull me into a future that doesn't exist, sink me back into the past, or make me feel agitated, stressed, and worried over a problem or a thought that really needs my presence. If we learned anything, is that in the moment is where we create the future. And we really can't judge this moment too much. We can't know if we have a problem, it won't be solved. We can't know if there won't be solutions. We just can't. But the minute we don't like what's happening, we fall into that place. And I think it's so important that we become more observant of this, because we don't have to give up the peace every day and the joy every day. I'm not saying there aren't moments that are sad, but we give it away so easily the first time we don't like what's happening. And so if we can keep going back to what we commit to our breath, to our lists, to the feelings. There was even one point that I started to get stressed about something someone said about a possible problem at work. And I remembered being in my daughter's room, and I remembered that feeling of love and her curiosity. And it just relaxed my body. I chose to feel love instead of stress in that moment. And it was strange because I was thinking about something that had nothing to do with the problem, but I was still able to generate that beautiful feeling. And that beautiful feeling elevated my mood, and I didn't get as stressed about what was happening. So what I'm really saying is that we can create our own process for peace and joy and abundance in this in-between place we all find ourselves. I don't want to keep giving up every day for the future when COVID-19 is totally under control, when we feel we have a handle on the economy, or we have a handle on our work or our money. Why do we have to give away that peace and that joy for another time? And there are ways that we can access this. There are ways that we could commit to gratitude. If you're facing a problem at work or with a friend, if you stay in that grateful state because you remember everything you put on your list, you're going to have perspective automatically. You're going to be able to see if the problem you're facing is big or not, worth it or not. Do you get involved or not? Because you're already in that spacious place where you know what's important, you know what holds you up, you know what's meaningful. And if you commit to those things on the list, whatever they might be, meaning, kindness, love, freedom, whatever it is, if you remind yourself of thoughts that make you feel that way, then you're going to approach your problems that way. If we learned anything in the past couple of years, is that we can't control everything, but we can control how we show up. And this beautiful life that we have today is the springboard for the life that we're going to have tomorrow. I really believe that if you can keep close to your gratitude practice and the lists of how you want to feel and the things that make you feel that way, as well as the maybe practice, you're going to feel better every day. And as you feel better, you'll feel more expansive, you'll feel more hopeful, you'll be more present, and you'll end up creating more and doing more and pursuing more. And you might just find that the life you're creating is better than the life before the pandemic. That this in-between place is offering you new possibilities and new opportunities. And you might even start to believe that maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to my podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe or A Year Without Men, they're available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you like this podcast, you could subscribe and leave a comment.